The dim blue lights of Nexus Station's legendary bar, the last stop, cast long shadows across Karavic's scarred face. His 4 upper arms rested on the sticky table, while his lower set remained near his weapons. 20 years as the leader of the Void Claws had taught him to never fully relax, especially when meeting new clients. "Another drink, Commander?" asked the robotic server, its voice box crackling. Karavic pushed his empty glass forward with one of his upper right hands. "Keep them coming until my guest arrives." The bar buzzed with the usual mix of mercenaries, smugglers, and those smart enough not to share their business. Species from across the galaxy filled the corners of the room. But even in this crowd, Karavic's Zentari frame stood out. His blue-gray skin, multiple arms, and the glowing red implants along his neck marked him as a veteran of the border wars. "Commander Karavic," a soft voice cut through the noise. Karavic looked up to see a well-dressed Phobosian, their translucent skin revealing the outline of their 3 hearts beating at different speeds. Expensive clothes, clean hands, definitely not another mercenary. "You're late," Karavic growled. "Sit before someone decides to rob you." The Phobosian slid into the seat opposite him, placing a small device on the table. It hummed quietly before projecting a privacy field around them. "My apologies for the delay. Security measures, you understand." The Phobosian's voice became clear once the field activated. "I represent interests within the galactic hegemony. You may call me Vex." Karavic snorted. "The hegemony doesn't hire mercs, you have your own armies. Some tasks require deniability." Vex placed a crystal data chip on the table. "This contains coordinates for a moon called Tarvos 9, plus half your payment. 20 million credits." Karavic's inner eyelids blinked rapidly, the only sign of his surprise at the figure. Who needs killing for that kind of money? Not killing. Complete removal. Vex leaned forward. "A new species has established an unauthorized mining operation on Tarvos 9. They call themselves humans. We need them gone within 30 standard days." "Never heard of them. They're newcomers to this sector. Deathworlders." Karavic's hand paused midway to his drink. "Deathworlders? You're joking." Every spacefaring race knew about Deathworlders. Species that evolved on planets so deadly that most civilized beings couldn't survive there, even with advanced technology. Planets with crushing gravity, toxic atmospheres, extreme temperatures, and predators that would give nightmares to the bravest warriors. Vex shook his head. "They come from a planet they call Earth. Gravity 1.3 times galactic standard, atmospheric poisons, extreme temperature variations, constant natural disasters. The usual Deathworlder profile." Karavic laughed. "And you think that's a problem? My crew has taken down Krell battle tanks. We've wiped out pirate bases on irradiated moons. Whatever these humans are, they won't stand against the Void Claws." "Do not underestimate them," Vex warned. "Our preliminary reports suggest unusual physical capabilities and aggressive tendencies. For 20 million credits, I'd fight the Void itself." Karavic pocketed the data chip. "Consider your human problem solved." As Vex departed, Karavic signaled his second-in-command, Drax, who had been watching from the bar. "New contract," Karavic said, displaying the chip. "Some Deathworlders need clearing from a mining moon." Drax's facial tentacles curled in amusement. "Sounds too easy for our rates." "That's what worries me," Karavic muttered. "When someone pays this much, there's always a catch." 3 hours later, the Void Claw's ship, Midnight Fang, detached from Nexus Station. As the engines roared to life, Karavic studied the limited information on humans. "Deathworlders or not," he said to himself, "everyone bleeds." The Midnight Fang glided through space like a predator stalking prey. After 3 days of faster-than-light travel, the ship emerged near Tarvos 9, a small rocky moon orbiting a gas giant. Karavic stood on the bridge, all 6 arms crossed as he studied the scans. "That's the human settlement?" Drax asked, pointing at a cluster of simple structures on the moon's surface. Karavic zoomed in on the image. "Looks primitive. No energy shields. Basic weapons systems at best." This will be easier than we thought. The crew of 12 veteran mercenaries gathered in the briefing room. Maps of the human outpost floated in the air as holograms. Karavik pointed to what appeared to be power generators and water recyclers. We need intelligence before we strike, he said. Nyx will go down first. Nyx, a slender shadowkin with pitch-black skin that absorbed light, nodded. Her species was famous for stealth operations. With her advanced cloaking suit, she could become nearly invisible. I'll be in and out before they know I was there, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. 6 hours later, Nyx's small scout ship detached from the Midnight Fang and descended toward the dark side of Tarvos 9. The plan was simple. Land 3 miles from the human settlement, observe for 12 hours, then return with information about guard rotations and defenses. Karavik and the crew monitored her progress from orbit. Everything went smoothly until Nyx reached the outskirts of the settlement. Something's not right, her voice crackled over the comm. These readings can't be correct. What do you see? Karavik demanded. Humans working outside without environment. Suits. The atmosphere is thin here, temperature is -20 degrees, and they're just wearing light coverings. Drax snorted. Your sensors must be malfunctioning. I don't think so, Nyx replied. They're lifting mining equipment that would crush most species without powered exoskeletons. And the dust here contains trace amounts of chemicals that would burn Zentari skin. Karavik frowned. Stay hidden. Get closer. For the next 4 hours, the crew watched through Nyx's helmet camera. The humans moved with surprising speed, worked without breaks, and seemed unfazed by conditions that would kill most species within minutes. Then disaster struck. A human, a small female with dark hair, stopped suddenly and looked directly at Nyx's hidden position. We've got company, the human said to her companions, her voice picked up by Nyx's directional microphones. Impossible. Nyx's cloaking technology was the best money could buy. Retreat now, Karavik ordered. The crew watched as Nyx backed away slowly, then turned to run. For a moment it seemed she would escape undetected. Then 3 humans appeared out of nowhere, cutting off her path. They moved with frightening speed. Nyx made it back to her ship, but she was shaking when she returned to the Midnight Fang. They knew I was there the whole time, she said, refusing to look at anyone. They were toying with me. As Karavik reviewed the footage, the ship's communication system suddenly came to life. On the main screen appeared a human face. The same female who had spotted Nyx. Greetings, visitors, she said with an unsettling smile. I'm Captain Maya Chen of the Earth Mining Consortium. We know you're watching us and we're curious about your intentions. Perhaps we should talk before this gets unpleasant. Karavik stared at the screen in disbelief. How had they found the Midnight Fang? Their cloaking systems were active. What are your orders? Drax asked. For the first time in years, Karavik hesitated. We should blast them from orbit, Drax insisted, his facial tentacles twitching nervously. No talk, no risks. Karavik considered this option. The Midnight Fang's weapons could turn the human settlement to ash in minutes. But something bothered him, the calm confidence of the human who had contacted them. We talk first, Karavik decided. But we show strength. The meeting point was a flat area halfway between the human settlement and Nyx's landing site. Karavik selected his 10 best fighters, including Quint, a massive Brullian enforcer with rock-like skin and muscles that could crush metal. The mercenaries arrived in full battle armor, weapons ready. They waited, scanning the horizon of the dusty moon. There, Nyx whispered, pointing. A single figure walked toward them. No vehicle, no protection against the harsh environment. Just one human female in a simple uniform. That's their representative? Drax laughed. One unarmed human? As she got closer, Karavik recognized Captain Maya Chen from the transmission. She was smaller than he expected, perhaps half his height and a third of his weight. Yet she moved with unusual grace across the rocky terrain. Commander Karavik, I presume? She called out, stopping 10 paces away. Her voice was clear despite the thin atmosphere. Thank you for agreeing to talk. Karavik's 4 upper arms remained crossed, while his lower ones rested on his weapons. "You know why we're here?" "Someone wants our mining operation shut down," Chen said with a shrug. "It happens everywhere we go. The hegemony fears what they don't understand." "You're trespassing on hegemony territory," Karavik stated. "Funny, when we arrived this moon was unclaimed." Chen smiled. "But let's not argue politics. I think we have a more immediate misunderstanding to clear up." "Which is?" "You don't know what humans are capable of." Chen looked at the heavily armed mercenaries. "Before you make a costly mistake, perhaps a demonstration?" Drax stepped forward. "We don't need—" "I'm curious," Karavik interrupted. "What kind of demonstration?" Chen pointed at Quint. "Your strongest fighter against me, hand to hand, no weapons." The mercenaries laughed. Even Karavik couldn't help his amused snort. Quint stepped forward, towering over the human. "I'll try not to kill her too quickly," he rumbled. Chen smiled. "Whenever you're ready." What happened next would haunt Karavik's dreams for years. Quint charged, swinging a massive fist that could shatter stone. Chen didn't dodge. Instead, she caught his fist in her hand, stopping it completely. Quint's expression changed from confidence to confusion to fear in seconds. He pushed harder. Chen didn't move. Then, with a slight twist of her wrist, she forced Quint to his knees. "Impossible," Drax whispered. Chen released Quint, who stumbled backward. "That's just strength," she said. "Would you like to see speed?" Before Karavik could answer, Drax shouted, "Kill her!" and raised his plasma rifle. 3 mercenaries fired. Chen moved in a blur. Suddenly, she stood behind them, holding 3 weapons in her hands. The rest of the squad turned, trying to track her movement, but she was already among them. Within seconds, half the mercenaries were disarmed. "Enough!" Karavik shouted. "Stand down!" Chen stopped, now holding 5 different weapons. She dropped them casually to the ground. "As I said, a demonstration." Her smile never wavered. "Now, shall we discuss your options? They're becoming rather limited." Back on the Midnight Fang, the mood was dark. No one spoke as Karavik paced the bridge, all 6 of his arms clenched in frustration. 20 years, he finally said. 20 years without failure. I won't let some primitive Deathworlders ruin our reputation. Talus, the team's weapons specialist, stepped forward. Her long fingers moved quickly over a tablet. "I've analyzed the data from our encounter," she said. "These humans have weaknesses. Their eyes are sensitive to bright light. Their skin burns easily. And they need oxygen." "Can you make weapons to exploit these weaknesses?" Karavik asked. Talus nodded. "Give me 6 hours." While Talus worked, Karavik studied the scan data from the human settlement. They had no energy shields, no heavy weapons platforms. Their buildings were made of simple metals and plastics. It made no sense that such primitive creatures could be so dangerous. "We attack at midnight," Karavik told his crew. "No mercy." The plan was simple but effective. They would strike from 3 directions, using specialized flash grenades to blind the humans, followed by poison gas to make breathing painful. Karavik would lead the main attack force while Drax and Nyx would take smaller teams to destroy the power generators and water systems. Under the cover of darkness, the Void Claws moved into position. Talus's new weapons were distributed, special ammunition designed to penetrate human flesh and release toxins. "Begin," Karavik ordered through the comlink. The attack started perfectly. Flash grenades exploded across the settlement, bathing everything in blinding light. Gas canisters followed, releasing clouds of chemicals that should have left any breathing creature choking and helpless. For a moment, success seemed certain. Then everything changed. From the gas clouds emerged human figures wearing simple masks. They moved with purpose, not panic. Some humans took direct hits from toxic rounds but continued fighting as if merely inconvenienced. "They're not stopping," Nick shouted over the comm. "I hit one in the chest twice. He just keeps coming." Karavik fired his heavy plasma cannon at a human male who was running toward his position. The blast hit the human directly, burning a hole through his shoulder, but instead of falling, the human kept charging, grabbed the barrel of Karavik's weapon and bent it upward with one hand. "Retreat," Karavik ordered, using his middle arms to draw backup weapons while his upper arms fought to free his cannon from the human's grip. All across the battlefield, the mercenaries found themselves in similar situations. Humans fought with a ferocity that defied logic. Even serious injuries didn't slow them down. One female human continued fighting with a shattered arm, using her good arm to throw a mercenary twice her size across the field. What should have been a quick victory turned into a desperate retreat. For the first time in the Void Claw's history, they fled before completing a mission. As the battered mercenaries regrouped on their ship, a transmission came through. Captain Chen's face appeared on the screen. She looked completely unharmed despite the battle. "That was unpleasant," she said calmly. "You have 24 hours to leave this system, or we'll be forced to demonstrate capabilities that your species isn't built to endure. This is your only warning." The transmission ended, leaving silence on the bridge. "What are they?" Drax whispered, nursing a broken limb. Karavik had no answer. The journey back to Nexus Station felt longer than it should have. Karavik spent most of it in his private quarters avoiding his crew. Failure was not something he knew how to face. In 20 years of mercenary work, the Void Claws had never retreated, never lost, until the humans. When they docked at Nexus Station, Karavik expected to hide in shadows and dark corners. Instead, he was surprised to find Vex waiting for him at the airlock. "Walk with me," the Phobosian said, not bothering with greetings. They moved through busy corridors until they reached a private room deep within the station. Inside, several screens displayed star maps, and the air was thick with the smell of expensive incense. "You failed," Vex stated once the door closed behind them. Karavik's lower hands instinctively moved toward his weapons. "If you want your money back, keep it." Vex waved dismissively. The contract was never about removing the humans. What? It was a test. We needed to confirm their capabilities. Vex touched a control panel, and one of the screens changed to show footage of the Void Claw's battle with the humans. "You were watching us?" Karavik growled. "Of course. The hegemony needed to know how humans perform in combat against the best mercenaries in the sector." Vex's 3 hearts beat faster. "You did exactly what we needed you to do." Karavik felt his anger rising. "My crew was injured. Drax might lose an arm. Also, you could run a test?" For what it's worth, the test results were impressive. The humans exceeded our expectations. "Why test them at all?" Vex's expression grew serious. "Because we need them." The screen changed again, showing images that made Karavik step back. Planets, reduced to dead rock. Massive ships with organic-looking structures. Creatures with too many limbs and no eyes swarming across landscapes. "What is this?" Karavik whispered. "The swarm," Vex said quietly. "They appeared at the edge of the galaxy a year ago. Since then, they've consumed 3 systems. Our conventional forces cannot stop them." Karavik stared at the images. "And you think humans can?" Deathworlders evolved to survive impossible conditions, to endure pain and hardship that would break most species. The swarm has never encountered anything like them. Vex turned to face Karavik directly. "We want to hire them as mercenaries." "They won't work for you. They barely spoke to us before trying to kill us. That's why we need you." Vex placed a credit chip on the table. "Double your previous payment. Go back to Tarvos 9, not as an enemy, but as a recruiter. Convince the humans to fight for us." Karavik laughed bitterly. "You want me to ask the creatures who just defeated us to work for you?" "Yes." Vex's voice was cold. "Because if the swarm isn't stopped, there won't be a galaxy left to work in. Not for humans, not for you, not for anyone." Karavik looked at the credit chip, then at the images of the swarm's destruction. "What if they refuse?" he asked. "Then the hegemony falls, and after us, every other civilization in the galaxy." Vex stepped closer. "You've seen what humans can do. Wouldn't you rather have them on our side than standing alone when the swarm arrives?" Karavik closed his eyes, remembering the terrifying efficiency of the humans in battle. "I'll go. he finally said. But not as your servant. As a free agent. Vex nodded. Fair enough, just get it done. The Midnight Fang approached Tarvos 9 slowly, broadcasting peaceful intentions on all frequencies. Only Karavik and 3 crew members remained on board, the bare minimum needed to operate the ship. The rest had stayed at Nexus Station, unwilling to face the humans again. They're responding, Nick said from the communications station. Her voice was steady, but her hands trembled slightly. Captain Chen's face appeared on the main screen. The Void Claws returning so soon? She said with a raised eyebrow. Your 24 hours haven't even expired yet. Karavik stepped forward. We come to talk, not fight. I request permission to land. Just myself, no weapons. Chen studied him for a moment, then nodded. Granted. Land at these coordinates, I'll meet you there. An hour later, Karavik stood alone on the surface of Tarvos 9. His ship waited in orbit, ready to retrieve him if things went wrong. He wasn't sure they could succeed if the humans decided to keep him. Chen arrived in a small ground vehicle, alone, as promised. She wore the same simple uniform as before, looking completely relaxed. So, she said, stepping out of the vehicle, what brings the galaxy's top mercenary back to a moon full of people he tried to kill? Karavik took a deep breath. I come with information and an offer. He explained about the swarm, showing her the data Vex had given him. Chen listened without interruption, her expression unchanging. When he finished, expecting questions or disbelief, she surprised him by laughing. The swarm, she said, shaking her head. Yes, we know about them. Karavik blinked all 4 of his eyes. You know? We encountered them 6 months ago at the edge of our territory. We've already fought 3 battles against them. Chen gestured toward the mining operation. Why do you think we're here? This moon has rare elements we need for our weapons. Then you'll help the hegemony fight them? That depends. Chen crossed her arms. What are the terms? Karavik had prepared for this. Full payment as mercenaries. The hegemony will provide ships, support. No, Chen interrupted. If we fight, it will be as allies, not hired guns. The hegemony recognizes human territory and grants us full diplomatic status. They won't agree to that, Karavik said. You're newcomers. Then they fight the swarm alone. Chen's voice hardened. We've seen what happens to those who underestimate us. The hegemony sent you to kill us, and now they want our help? The price is equality. Before Karavik could respond, Chen touched a device on her wrist. I'm patching you into a direct call with Earth Command. They've been monitoring our conversation. Oh, new face appeared as a hologram between them. An older human male with dark skin and white hair. This is General Marcus Williams of Earth Defense Force, the human said. Captain Chen speaks with our full authority. Karavik realized the humans had been far more organized than anyone suspected. This wasn't a simple mining operation. It was an advance post for a military force. How many of you are there? He asked. Enough, Williams answered. We have a fleet positioned just outside this sector. If the hegemony accepts our terms, we can have ships here within 3 days. Karavik stared in disbelief. The hegemony had believed they were dealing with primitive newcomers, but the humans had been watching and waiting all along. I'll take your terms to the hegemony, he finally said. But I need proof of your capabilities against the swarm. Chen smiled. That can be arranged. 2 months passed quickly. The hegemony had little choice but to accept the humans' terms once they saw the evidence of the swarm's advancement. Now Karavik found himself in a position he never expected, serving as liaison between human commanders and hegemony forces on the contested planet Velius Prime. From the forward command post, Karavik watched human soldiers prepare for battle. Their movements were efficient, their faces calm despite the toxic yellow fog that covered the landscape. While hegemony troops wore sealed environmental suits, humans used only simple breathing masks. Commander Karavik, the scouts have returned, said Lieutenant Rodriguez, a human officer who had been assigned to work with him. Karavik followed Rodriguez to the briefing room, where Captain Chen, now Major Chen, stood before a holographic map. In the 2 months since their first meeting, Karavik had developed a reluctant respect for her. "The swarm is moving faster than expected," Chen explained, pointing to red markers on the map. "They've adapted to our standard weapons. We need to hit them with something new." "The hegemony forces can't advance through that toxic zone," Karavik said. "Their suits won't last more than an hour." Chen nodded. "That's why humans will go alone. A direct strike at their command node." Karavik stared at her. "That's suicide, even for Deathworlders." "Maybe." Chen smiled grimly. "But we've evolved fighting each other for thousands of years. The swarm thinks like one creature. We think like millions." Later that day, Karavik watched from an observation post as 300 human soldiers moved through the yellow fog toward the swarm's position. Unlike the careful strategic movements of hegemony forces, the humans charged directly into danger. "Why do they fight like that?" he asked Rodriguez. "It's our history," the lieutenant replied, checking his weapon. "On Earth, we fought wars where soldiers had to run straight into gunfire. Those who hesitated died first. When the swarm counterattacked, Karavik expected a massacre. The enemy emerged from the ground in waves, thousands of multi-limbed creatures with acid sprays and blade-like appendages. The humans should have retreated. Instead, they pushed forward." Through his binoculars, Karavik witnessed sights that defied belief. Humans with severe injuries continued fighting. A female soldier with acid burns across her face kept firing her weapon without signs of pain. A male soldier whose arm was severed used his remaining hand to throw explosives into a swarm tunnel. "They're breaking through," Rodriguez shouted excitedly. The human tactic, which had seemed like madness, was working. Their direct assault had confused the swarm, disrupting its collective intelligence. For the first time since the war began, the enemy was retreating. Hours later, when the surviving humans returned, Karavik noticed something strange. Despite their injuries and exhaustion, many were smiling. Some even laughed as medics treated their wounds. "I don't understand," he said to Chen as they watched the soldiers. "How can they be happy after such horror?" Chen's eyes were tired but proud. "Because we won. And for humans, winning is sometimes worth any cost." That night, as Karavik reported to Hegemony High Command, he chose his words carefully. "The humans don't fight like soldiers. They fight like forces of nature. And for the first time, I believe the swarm can be defeated." 1 year later, Karavik stood in the grand hall of the Hegemony Central Worlds, watching history unfold. His appearance had changed, his blue-gray skin bore new scars, and he wore the formal uniform of the Diplomatic Security Force instead of mercenary armor. The Void Claws no longer existed. In their place, Karavik now led an elite unit tasked with protecting the diplomats who were reshaping the galaxy. Today they guarded the most important gathering in generations. "Nervous?" asked Nick, standing beside him. She too wore the new uniform, her once stealthy demeanor replaced by proud posture. "No," Karavik lied. In truth, he hadn't slept in days. The massive doors opened, and delegates from 50 species entered the hall. Among them walked Admiral Maya Chen, formerly captain, now the lead representative of humanity. Her uniform gleamed with medals earned during the campaign against the swarm. 1 year of fighting alongside humans had changed everything Karavik thought he knew about warfare. The swarm had been pushed back to its home system, something no military expert had believed possible. The cost had been high, millions dead across dozens of worlds, but the alternative had been extinction. Now, the political reality was catching, up to the military one. Today, humanity would be formally recognized as a major galactic power. The ceremony proceeded with speeches from various leaders. When it was Chen's turn to speak, she kept her words simple. "We came to this region of space, looking for resources and neighbors," she said. "We found both, along with a common enemy. Humanity doesn't seek to rule, only to help build something better than what came before." Later at the reception, Karavik found himself alone with Chen for the first time in months. "Admiral," he said with a slight bow. "Congratulations." "Commander, Karavik," she responded with a smile. "Still strange to think we first met as enemies. I was a fool then. No, you were doing your job." Chen looked out at the gathering. "Just as we all were." Karavik hesitated, then asked the question that had bothered him for a year. "Why did humans hide your true capabilities when you first encountered our civilization? You had advanced ships, weapons. You could have announced yourselves as a major power from the beginning." Chen's smile faded. "We've learned through our own history that when you meet new civilizations, it's best they don't know what you're capable of until they decide whether they want to be friends or enemies." A chill ran through Karavik's body. "Are there other threats out there?" he asked quietly. "Beyond the swarm?" Chen's eyes met his. "There's always something worse, Commander. The universe is vast and mostly unknown." As the reception continued, Karavik noticed the human delegates exchanging glances when a rumor spread among the attendees. Stories of strange signals from beyond known space, something that even the swarm had feared. In that moment, Karavik made a decision that would shape the rest of his life. Whatever came next, he would ensure the hegemony remained firmly allied with humans. Because those who had witnessed Deathworlders in battle understood one simple truth. They were the most terrifying enemies and the most valuable friends any species could have, and the galaxy was about to need very good friends indeed.